Understanding the mysterious East, interpreting the timeless classics. Behind myths, legends, and ancient stories lies a real world shaped by power. Welcome to Mysterious East.
Chapter 4: The Second Self and the Death of Illusion. Final chapter, English narrative version. As our journey continues from the trials of the previous chapter, the pilgrims have already passed through one of the most delicate tests of the human heart. The kingdom of women was not merely a romantic episode, nor simply another obstacle on the road to the west. It was a mirror placed before Tang Sanzang, forcing him to face the cost of faith, restraint, loneliness, and renunciation. When Tang Sanzang left the kingdom of women, he left behind a phrase, "If there is another life." In Buddhist understanding, and in the deeper logic of Journey to the West, this was not a promise. It was the most restrained form of refusal. For the pilgrimage team, the journey through the kingdom of women became an important psychological turning point. It taught every member of the group that Tang Sanzang, beneath his compassion and discipline, was still a human being. He could be moved. He could hesitate. He could feel tenderness. Yet, for the sake of his ultimate faith, he had to abandon worldly happiness. Sun Wukong also saw his master's weakness more clearly than ever before. He understood that protecting Tang Sanzang did not only mean guarding him from demons outside. It also meant guarding the restless, fragile heart within him. After this trial, Tang Sanzang's gaze became steadier. The unity of the team also began to change. It was no longer merely a contract of duty. It had become a deeper emotional bond. Together, they had passed through a baptism called regret. And because of that regret, they were able to walk more lightly toward the far more dangerous second half of the journey. If Journey to the West is a 14-year psychological journey, then the episode of the true and false Monkey King is the most critical moment of breakthrough. This chapter is no longer a simple story of defeating demons. It is a peak confrontation about identity, self-recognition, and the struggle within one's own mind. The cause of the story is heavy. Tang Sanzang, angered by Sun Wukong for once again killing bandits, recites the Taikfalei spell and drives him away from the pilgrimage for the second time. Wukong leaves with deep grievance in his heart. But soon after, another pilgrim appears, one who looks exactly like Sun Wukong, dresses exactly like him, and even carries the same weapon. This false Wukong does not merely appear to confuse the group. He knocks Tang Sanzang unconscious, steals the luggage, takes the scriptures, and even tries to form his own team to go to the West. The original title of this episode reveals its deeper truth: two minds disturb the great universe, different bodies cannot cultivate the true way. The six-eared macaque is not merely another monster. In a symbolic sense, he is Sun Wukong's second mind. He is the embodiment of the negative emotions hidden deep within Wukong's heart: anger toward Tang Sanzang's constant scolding, exhaustion from the burden of the pilgrimage, and the ambition to prove that even without Tang Sanzang, he could still succeed. The true and false Wukong fight until heaven and earth seem to collapse. They battle from the sky to the underworld. They seek judgment from countless authorities. Guanyin Bodhisattva cannot identify them. This is because the false Wukong is a projection from within Wukong himself. Guanyin may understand, but she cannot easily expose it. Tang Sanzang recites the spell, and both figures cry out in pain, because the suffering is real. The Jade Emperor and the demon-revealing mirror cannot distinguish them either, because the six-eared macaque's power and nature are nearly identical to Sun Wukong's. A mirror can reflect appearance, but it cannot reveal the heart. Even Dezang Bodhisattva's divine beast, who can hear the truth of all things in the three realms, understands what is happening but does not dare to speak openly. He knows that this demon's supernatural power is no different from the great sages. If the truth is spoken carelessly, this destructive second mind may overturn the underworld itself. This is one of the deepest metaphors in the entire novel. When a person falls into self-doubt and inner conflict, the standards of the outside world often become useless. Others may judge your behavior, but they cannot truly identify the source of your pain. Only you, or a wisdom higher than yourself, can resolve that kind of internal struggle. In the end, the two Wukongs fight all the way to the Buddha. The Buddha speaks words of extraordinary depth. He understands that all beings arise from one mind, and that this chaos is caused by the disturbance of a second mind. The Buddha reveals the identity of the six-eared macaque and traps him beneath a golden alms bowl. Sun Wukong does not hesitate. He raises his staff and kills him. Many readers feel a sense of sadness at this moment. Tang Sanzang also finally realizes that without this troublesome great sage, his ideal of reaching the West would be nothing more than a castle in the air. From that point onward, Tang Sanzang no longer casually recites the Taitfale spell. Sun Wukong no longer leaves the team whenever he feels wronged. The group reaches a silent understanding deep within the soul. They are no longer consuming one another. They are beginning to complete one another. This episode tells us that anyone who wants to reach wholeness must first face and overcome the second self within, the self filled with resentment, exhaustion, pride, and negative energy. After 14 years of hardship and 108,000 li of travel, the pilgrimage team finally sees the sacred light of Spirit Mountain. But the final destination is not a simple song of victory and merit. It is a final confrontation between emptiness and existence. At the foot of Spirit Mountain lies the cloudy crossing. There is only a narrow single-plank bridge, and below it the water surges fiercely. The guiding Buddha arrives in a bottomless boat to ferry them across. When Tang Sanzang steps onto the boat with no bottom, he sees a corpse floating in the water. Sun Wukong smiles and says, "That is you. That is you." This is one of the most shocking metaphors in Journey to the West. To reach the other shore, the old self must first die. To cast off the mortal body means that Tang Sanzang has finally let go of his attachment to flesh, fame, fear, suffering, and the identity he once carried. Only at this moment does he truly become qualified to receive the highest wisdom. Yet the most unexpected conflict occurs inside Thunderclap Monastery. Ananda and Kasayapa, the two venerable disciples, ask Tang Sanzang for a human offering, in plain terms, a bribe. Sun Wukong becomes furious. But in the end, Tang Sanzang gives away the precious purple gold begging bowl bestowed upon him by Emperor Taizong of Tang. This is not only a satire of worldly reality. It is also a profound Zen lesson. There is no truth in this world that can be obtained without cost. If you want to receive the true scripture, you must be willing to give up the most real and valuable worldly object in your hand. Yet the first scriptures they receive are blank. Sun Wukong is enraged, thinking the Buddha has deceived them. But the Buddha only smiles calmly and says that the blank scriptures are wordless true scriptures, and that they are also good. This reveals the highest realm of the entire book. The deepest truth does not depend on words. All scriptures, languages, rituals, and forms are merely fingers pointing at the moon. They are not the moon itself. When you have walked through the 81 trials, every mountain you crossed, every river you passed, every demon you faced, and every fear you endured has already become a scripture written into your life. Words, in comparison, may become unnecessary weight. On the return journey, Guanyin Bodhisattva calculates that the pilgrimage team has only completed 80 trials. One trial is still missing before perfection can be achieved. So, at the Tongtian River, they encounter danger once again. The scriptures fall into the water. Sun Wukong looks at the damaged and incomplete scriptures with deep distress. But at that moment, he understands. Heaven and earth themselves are not complete. This final stroke tells us that life does not contain perfect completion. The regrets, the damages, the missing pages, and the wounds we once suffered are all proof that life has truly been lived. To accept imperfection is also a form of enlightenment. Finally, the 5 members of the pilgrimage team receive their titles at Spirit Mountain. Tang Sanzang becomes the Buddha of merit and virtue, representing the final victory of faith. Sun Wukong becomes the victorious fighting Buddha. These 4 words are extremely subtle. They do not mean that he is encouraged to keep fighting others. They mean that through battle, he has finally conquered the greed, anger, and delusion within himself. Zhu Beiji becomes the cleanser of the altars. The Buddha sees clearly that Beiji still remains attached to material comfort and desire. So he is given a position related to offerings from the world. This reflects the compassion of Buddhist wisdom. Human weakness does not always need to be destroyed. If placed in the right position, even weakness can become a kind of blessing. Shaseng becomes the golden-bodied arhat. He represents the person who keeps his original heart through plainness, silence, and endurance. The white dragon horse becomes a bodhisattva of the 8 divisions, a reward for perseverance, burden-bearing, and silent service. From a mount carrying others forward, he becomes a divine being in his own right. After hearing this story, you may finally realize that Journey to the West is not truly a story about gods and demons. It is a story about the human heart. Tang Sanzang is your faith, fragile, sometimes confused, but always pointing toward a direction. Sun Wukong is your ability, sharp, powerful, and brilliant, but in need of discipline. Zhu Beiji is your desire, greedy and imperfect, but also honest and real. Shaseng is your reason, plain, ordinary, and quiet, but stable enough to carry the journey forward. Together, these figures form a complete soul that is still evolving. The West is not truly in some distant sky. It exists in the moment when you overcome each hardship, see through each illusion, accept each imperfection, and finally gain a quiet peace within yourself. And perhaps this is the final meaning of Journey to the West. The road to the scriptures is the road of life itself. Every demon is a shadow of the heart. Every trial is a question asked by fate. Every step forward is a choice between sinking and awakening. At the beginning, they believed they were going to the West to find the scriptures. But at the end, they finally understood that the true scripture had never been far away. It had been written into every step of the journey. It had been hidden inside every wound. It had been formed through every act of endurance, every moment of doubt, and every struggle against the self. This is why Journey to the West can be read not only as a myth, but as a map of human transformation. To walk west is to walk inward. To become a Buddha is not to escape the human world, but to understand it, endure it, and finally transcend the illusions that once controlled the heart. And when the old self sinks into the river, when the incomplete scriptures are accepted, and when the restless mind finally grows still, the journey truly reaches its end. This is the end of the pilgrimage. But it is also the beginning of awakening.